Mr. Christian Neptune emigrated from Haiti 40 years ago. After many years of hard work, he was able to open the small restaurant in Little Haiti. Unbeknownst to him, the restaurant parking lot was being contaminated by a nearby dry cleaner. With the help of the Brownfields Land Revitalization Program, Mr. Neptune was able to make his restaurant marketable again. This program is one of several offered by the City of Miami's Department of Economic Development. Lisa Mazik oversees the department.
Miami has a place for citizens at every stage of the economic window. Working middle class families, for our potentially low-skilled workers, and even for upper income workers, that clearly there is an opportunity for you to grow and expand and live the American dream here in Miami.
And a perfect way to help accomplish the American dream is by helping small business owners. In the case of Mr. Neptune, the city was able to provide a study of the property and clean the soil. Now he won't have any obstacles in selling his property or acquiring a loan. The Department of Economic Development is presently developing its Brownfields program to fuel economic development in both city and privately owned properties. Assistant Director Glenn Hall is a Brownfields coordinator.
A Brownfield site is a location, a property that has been underutilized, is not used to its highest and best use as a result of either actual or perceived contamination.
When it comes to land development, one of the biggest issues is liability. And when developers want to make a property productive, they typically want to have an idea of the risks.
And what the Brownfield program does is through different programs with the state and through the federal government, you are able to quantify the risk within a property by, of course, doing what we call an environmental site assessment, a phase 2, which pretty much delineates what type of problem is in the property as far as environmental.
There are over 400 contaminated sites that we know of throughout the city of Miami. And being an older city, a large urban city, that is not unusual. It is comparable to other cities across the country. One of those sites is this former nursery where soil was found to be contaminated. Although it could be redeveloped, cleaning this contaminated land through a process called remediation can be very expensive. Many private owners simply don't have the resources to do it. That's why a public-private partnership is vital in accomplishing this task. The Department of Economic Development works hand-in-hand with developers to help them bring those properties to environmental standards. Developers such as Albert Milo of the Urban Development Group, who is developing land to build affordable housing in the city of Miami.
The biggest challenge that we've encountered in general from our perspective is the increases in land costs and the increases in construction costs, which are making it harder to produce affordable housing for people of low and moderate income.
For over 20 years, different developers tried to build up this site near the Civic Center without success. Remediation costs were just too big of an obstacle.
We were put the development plan to submit to the city in order to redevelop the site, not only for affordable housing, but also for commercial development and have jobs created and affordable housing.
Through the Brownfields program, Mr. Milo was able to apply for federal grants. The grants allow them the necessary funds to clean the site and comply with environmental regulations. Now the site is ready to be developed as Wagner Square condominiums.
Without the city, we would not have been able to obtain the grant and therefore remediated the property.
Another example is Civic Towers just north of the Wagner Square site. The towers were built by the Related Group in 1982.
Civic Towers had contamination before they even developed the property. Unfortunately, years ago, the stringent nature of the environmental cleanup was not as strong as it is now. So since the problem was caused by the city, it was a former incinerator site. Afterwards, when we're doing some work, cleanup work in Wagner Square, we noticed that the area wasn't just contained to the Wagner Square property, that it extended north into Civic Towers and now St. Augustine Villas.
During a recent Brownfields conference sponsored by the City of Miami, we spoke to Alexander Diacosta from Bureau Veritas, the engineering company in charge of remediation.
We were brought in to do a source removal of areas that had not been applied engineering controls, which were needed in regards to direct exposure. We went ahead and applied concrete pavers to certain areas that required it, and other areas that required green space, we kept them green by installing 2 feet of clean fill and then laying sod on top of that.
And they've been very responsive and cooperative in meeting our needs, in making sure that that contamination was remediated as quickly as possible and that the problem has been resolved, working with DERM and making sure that everything gets closure.
Environmental brownfield projects are becoming more of the vogue now because, as you stated, the urban development line is not going to be moving anytime soon. And now we have to reinvest in areas that were once thought to be, blighted or just, not really on the radar screen of other developers to come in and redo those. It cleans up the area, it cleans up the environment. It acts as an economic tool to put these sites, which typically are abandoned or underused, back on the tax rolls.
Other properties that were recently cleaned up and are already being developed include Los Sueños Apartments, an affordable housing complex located in Wynwood. Public-owned land has also gone through extensive remediation. Grapeland Park, a 20-acre lot near the Miami International Airport, had 2 feet of topsoil removed and replaced with clean fill. Construction is already on its way for baseball fields and a concession stand. An area of the park has also been earmarked for a multi-million-dollar water park. Stay tuned. When we come back, how public and private partnerships are changing the face of Miami.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.
Once they've outgrown their toddler seat, they're still not ready for adult safety belts alone. 4'9" is the magic number. Until then, kids need a booster seat. Make sure your little pumpkin gets there safely. Visit boosterseat.gov.
There is a strong correlation between brownfield sites and areas that have considerable underemployment. However, Miami is going through a deep transformation. Areas that were never thought of by developers are now being targeted for redevelopment. The Midtown Miami project, with both retail and residential development, will help revitalize the economy within the so-called Enterprise Zone.
Well, the Enterprise Zone was born of the Empowerment Zone initiative out of the Clinton administration, whereby they looked at distressed income tracts in communities that they were trying to increase private capital and jobs.
Enterprise zones encourage economic growth and investment in distressed areas by offering tax advantages and incentives to businesses. In the city of Miami, most enterprise zones are located north of the Miami River.
The opportunity created by the Enterprise Zone is to go in potentially for new or expanding businesses to get a tax credit, provided that they create a certain number of jobs.
What we would do is we would offer them, let's say for simple terms, they pay $1,000 in taxes. And what we would do, we would tell them if, for instance, you create 5 jobs, what we would do is give you 100% tax abatement on your investment.
Marcus James, the person in charge of the tax abatement program, sees Midtown Miami as the top example on how an area can benefit from government incentives.
The tax abatement program is an opportunity for new or expanding businesses to get a refund on property taxes if they set up within the Enterprise Zone.